right here, this is the tea. If you've been going and going and going, I did not know that she was on Broadway. And going and going and going. Where's my wine? This book, going for so long and you're wondering where you're gonna get your big break, I need some wine. You need to read this. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Bougie Black Girls Book Club. I'm your host, India, but you can call me Be Me Queen. And we need to talk about this. So grab a glass of wine and let's get into it. Happy to have you guys back for another episode. Thanks for tuning in. Today we are talking about Finding Me, which is a memoir by Viola Davis. So if you're new to the channel, hey, welcome. I give book reviews of mostly Black authored books. As usual, I'm gonna give you my ease of read rating out of 5. I'll give you some key points that really stuck out to me about this book, and then I'll also give you my overall rating at the end, so make sure you stick around to see that. Getting my official glasses on and got my book club book out with all of my notes. Okay, so this book was given to me as a birthday gift. So my birthday's in December. Go Sagittarius. Hey. I got this book from my lab mates, which was an incredible read. I was so excited to read it, and it's the first book that I completed in 2023. Super excited to read this because I loved Viola Davis in How to Get Away with Murder. The Annalise Keating walk, it gets me every time. It gets me every time. Really excited to read this book, and I didn't hear many reviews on it, so I decided to read it and give a review for you guys. To start off, my ease of reading, I gave a 2 out of 5. Now listen, this book was incredibly traumatic. Like, she talks about her upbringing, and it was hard to read. The vocabulary, right? The words are fine, but what she talks about, the content, her childhood, very traumatic, very traumatic. I took a long time to read this book because the first half is primarily about her childhood. So if you don't know, Viola Davis grew up incredibly poor, and in her book she talks about how they didn't have heat, they didn't have water, they didn't have clean clothes, they didn't have food. She went to school hungry. She gives so many stories about different things that happened while she was a kid. Her father was also incredibly abusive, didn't have anyone to really look to, and she was really the support system for everyone else, especially her younger siblings. So there's just so much about her background in this story, and like I said, it's the first half of the book, and it was so incredibly hard to read that part. I think I read a chapter a day because I really had to like slow down and think about everything that she was saying. It was a lot to take in, so that's why I gave it a 2. So if you're not really into trauma, this probably ain't the book for you. I'm gonna be honest, right? You probably don't want to read this one because she laid it on and thick. From that, so let's get into the major key points from this book. The story starts to turn around about midway through. Viola talks about her journey with therapy, and I am a huge advocate for therapy. You need therapy. You need therapy. You need therapy. I love it. I've been going myself, and Viola Davis, I think, is the first person or first celebrity that I've heard talk about it so openly in a memoir, at least in the memoirs that I have read. Talks about being in therapy for 7 years and really unpacking all of the trauma that she went through as a child and how that impacted or continues to impact her career today. She doesn't talk about what she talks about in therapy, but the fact that she states that she was going time and time again, even when she wasn't making a lot of money, even when we didn't know her as Viola Davis, she was going to therapy and she was tried and true. I love that. We love a dedicated woman. She also talks about how it took her so long to get her life together. I'm not going to give too much away because I do want you to read the book, but it took her a long time to get her career off the ground. She started her career out in theater and then started to transition into doing movies and then doing TV shows to what we now know her as the Viola Davis. It took her a long time to get there, like years. Like, she didn't have a savings account, I think she says, until like 35. That's a long time. I don't know if it was exactly 35 years old, but it took her a long time to have savings, to know where her money was coming from, to have an apartment that she could rely on, and have like these things that are what we think is common, right? Healthcare, to have food and to have a stable place to stay. So it took her a very long time to get to that point. And she even says that she didn't start to really take money seriously until she was in her 40s. So that like put everything in perspective to me, especially for creatives in creative jobs. Acting specifically is not necessarily a consistent gig, and it takes people a long time to get their career jumping and to get consistent paid gigs, you know, back to back to back. So I thought it was really cool that she incorporated that and talked about her monetary struggle as well as her like familial and background struggles during her childhood. I thought that was really crazy. One of the things though that kept her back monetarily, and she talked about this a lot, is how she was supporting her family even though she didn't really have the income for herself. So coming from a very impoverished background, Viola felt the need to support her family while she was, you know, doing gigs and stuff in LA and in New York. And one thing she talks about in the book is that she would give her parents money every month, giving them like $200 a month. And she expected that money to go to bills, go to water, to go to food. But every time she would go back home, they still didn't have water, they still didn't have heat, they still didn't have food. And she was thinking like, where is this money going? What is going on? I think this is really important, especially for minorities. Well, Black people too, especially, but I'm gonna say minorities because I personally know minority friends that have had similar struggles. But in the minority community, ever one person in the family makes it, you're expected to then give back to your other family members. However, those family members may not have the skills and the tool sets to make different decisions to put them in a higher tax bracket per se. So even though Viola was making money, not a lot of money, but she was making money, even though she was making money and, you know, giving it to her family, they weren't paying the bills. They weren't buying the food. They were still in the same place that they were when she was younger. So in the book, she talks about how it got to a point where she started to buy physical groceries and deliver them to the home to make sure that her and her siblings had something to eat. Or she ended up paying the bills directly to make sure that the lights stayed on and things like that. So I think it's really unique that she incorporated that into this memoir because it is such a huge weight and responsibility to carry, to have to support your family when you yourself haven't made it. Like I said, she didn't become big and poppin' until she was like in her 40s, actually had a monetary consistency and a savings account and a retirement account. And so this also leads into her telling or learning how to tell people no. Let me say that one again. Learning how to tell people no. Because Viola Davis was giving her family money, they got used to it. Every month we're like, all right, where's my check, Viola? Where's the money? Where's the money? She had to learn how to tell her family members, no, I'm not giving it to you. And I think, again, this is another point that is very, very specific to minorities, because when that one person in the family starts to make it big, everyone is expecting their cut. So her learning how to say no was a lot of the second half of the book. How to say no to different gigs that she didn't want to do, learning how to say no to her family that was asking for money, to some directors with different parts, and I thought that was so critical. Like, yes, girl, yes, be saying no. This is the last part that I'm going to talk about because, again, I don't want to give away too much of the book. I don't want to give too much of it away. She talks about relationships, and again, I don't think a lot of celebrities really touch on this in their memoirs because people like to keep things private. I respect it. I respect it. In this book, she talks about her relationships, and she was only in one relationship, at least that she talks about in the book, and it was 7 years long, and it was awful. He was awful. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. And after that relationship, she decided she's going to focus on herself and get her career together, which again took a very long time. One important story that she tells is about a conversation that she had with God about the man that she wanted to be with in the future. Because for a long time, she completely, totally did not consider love at all. Was like, I don't care, I'm gonna get to the bag, whatever. But she tells God that if I meet a man who understands my career, and helps me achieve my career goals, and already has kids so that he don't want any from me, and can help me in ways that I don't expect, then I will be with that man. So she said that prayer, totally forgot about it, right? Moved on to LA and eventually met her husband. First, she didn't know that he was her husband, right? She wasn't looking. She was just like, I'm just trying to survive here in LA. I don't really care about this man, whatever. Their relationship was a slow burn and developed over time. I think it was so unique that she incorporated aspects of her personal relationship into this book. Fun fact is, after I read the book, I then saw her feature. Oh my gosh, where was she featured on? She did a house tour that I saw on the internet right after I finished reading her book, and it was with her and her husband, and it was the cutest thing. If you haven't watched it, you need to go watch that. They are so cute together. Whenever she gives speeches at award shows or anything like that, always there with her husband, and I think that is just so cool. The fact that she shared that with us and continues to share him with us, I feel special. I don't know about y'all, but I feel special. So overall, I gave this book a 3 out of 5. I know you're like, what? Only a 3? Listen, it was very traumatic, okay? It was very traumatic, and it really, really hurt my soul to read this. I think Viola Davis's story is so incredibly powerful, but it is also so very heavy. It is her truth. It is her story. It is what she lived through, and she's sharing it with others, and I think that is so incredibly inspiring. However, it was a very hard book for me emotionally to read. If you are into struggle stories and want to be inspired by her struggle story, I would definitely recommend it. I love Viola Davis. I love her work. I love what she has done and continues to do in movies and in TV shows. But this was a hard read. Try it out, see what you think, and let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you next week for the next book review. Bye.